In this next video, I'm going to encourage you to get out a piece of paper or in your journal and copy some of this stuff down. Okay, so now we've seen the difference between an element and a compound. Now what we're going to do is we're going to count atoms in the compound. Okay, so we know that elements are made up of elements are made up of atoms. When these elements come together, they create compounds. So here's the rule. Okay, so you're going to have subscripts. They only refer to the atom that they are behind. So let's look at an example. We have hydrogen, and this little number here is called a subscript. That little number tells us how many atoms there are. So the subscript is going to come after the element. It's behind it. Okay? You'll notice here that sulfur does not have a subscript, but because we wrote sulfur there, the letter S, that means there's at least one. Okay, so if there's no subscript, it's 1. The subscript will tell us how many atoms there are if there's more than 1. Okay, if we look here, we have the compound. We know this is a compound because it has more than one element. Let's count the capital letters. We have a capital N, we have a capital S, and we have a capital O. So that means we have 3 elements. We have Na, which is sodium, we have S, which is sulfur, and then O for oxygen. You'll notice that there is a subscript of 2 that comes after sodium. So that means we have 2 atoms of sodium. Sulfur does not have a subscript, so there's only 1 atom of sulfur. And then we have a subscript of 4 following oxygen, so we have 4 atoms of oxygen. Take a moment, write this compound down with the subscripts, and write this information. Here you're going to notice this is an illustration or a model of this compound. How many sodiums did we have? 2. How many sulfur? Just 1. And then how many oxygens? We have 4. Okay, write this compound down. We have capital N, lowercase a, that's sodium, a subscript of 2, and a capital O for oxygen. Now what you want to do, the first thing is identify what elements you have and write them down. So you're going to write Na for sodium, and then put equals, and how many atoms are there? We have a subscript of 2, so we have 2 atoms of sodium. Then you're going to write O for oxygen, and there is no subscript, so it's 1 atom. Okay, so always identify the element and then write the atoms. Let's try this one. We have 1, 2, 3 capital letters, so we have 3 elements. Capital C, lowercase u, capital S, and a capital O. There are no subscripts right here, so it's 1 atom. There's no subscript here, so it's 1 atom. And we have a subscript of 4. The next one, 1, 2, 3 capital letters. Okay, there is no subscript here for magnesium, so it's a 1. There's no subscript for sulfur, so it's 1. How many atoms for oxygen? That subscript 4 tells us there are 4 atoms of oxygen. Okay, try this one. Write this down. First, identify your elements, and then count your atoms. So we have a capital Z, lowercase n, so that's zinc. And then we have a capital O, that's oxygen. Is there a subscript? No, so it's 1 atom of zinc. And oxygen has no subscript, so it's 1 atom of oxygen. Okay. We have a capital M, lowercase g, capital C, lowercase l. Again, identify your element, and then count the atoms. No subscript, so it's a 1. The subscript 2, so there are 2 atoms. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to notice that you have a half sheet that says element versus compound, and then chemical compounds. Complete that.